Salvador de la Torre, and my pronouns are they, he, or él.
Thank you. Now, before we start talking about art and politics, we're really starting off with trying to get to know you as a person.
Yeah.
So the first two questions are, who are you? Can you tell us about who you are as a person before we talk about art, and how do you tell your story?
Yeah, I saw that question like in the email, and I was like having an existential crisis. Like, who am I outside my art? Just because I feel like it's hard for me to find the divide. Because I feel like I am my art. Like, my biggest work of art is the life that I live and my existence here on Earth. So yeah, it's really hard for me to like separate that from who I am as a person, and like I feel that just like the daily actions that I do are my art, or vice versa, or are myself. But yeah, I guess just like kind of aside from my art, like I'm a child of immigrants. I'm like a person that is really into astrology, a person that loves to dance cumbias and has like a long loving relationship with a dog named Vida that I take everywhere. Um, yeah, those are kind of little fun things.
Thank you. No, that's perfect.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
appropriate. And I'm wondering, you have a very interesting sort of like binational experience
Uh-huh.
to your life. And so I'm wondering if you could tell us where you grew up or
Yeah.
how you think about where you're from and how this place, or in your case, places, inform your identity.
Yeah. Um, I'm from a place, well, I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco. My parents are from a small town named Acatic, Jalisco, and it's in a region called Los Altos. And they're both from that same town. There's no hospitals in the area, so when my mom needed to give birth, she would go to the city. So I was born in the city, but I don't have like a super strong connection to the city. I'm like more so to the town. And when I was 5, my parents officially migrated to the U.S. Officially is a loose term because they have recently gone back to Mexico. But I'm my parents' sixth child, and so they have had my parents actually had me when they were 36. I'm 36 now, so they had a whole life and many lifetimes before I came along, and so they've lived in the Mexico. I mean, they lived in the U.S. and Chicago and L.A. and Santa Ana and so many places before I came along. But when I was 5, we moved all together um, to Laredo, Texas. And that was like my parents' like way of like moving to the U.S., but like still having a lot of ties to Mexico, like because they didn't want to be far. We at that time had our green cards, the entire family. Well, actually, some of my siblings are U.S. citizens. We're mixed, um, and yeah, so we moved officially like when I was 5, but to a border city because they wanted to still be really close to Mexico and be able to like still travel back to our town. Um, and so I grew up in a border city that was like has like informed me so much like as a person and as a way that like I make art. Because I never like people think like when I say I'm from Texas that I have like this like country like upbringing or something, but it was more like I grew up kind of in Mexico, but a little bit in the U.S. And it was like this place of like this in betweenness, and like Chicanos like really and Chicano writers really talk about it like as like especially like on Gloria Anzaldúa loves like this in between place, and I really identify with that too as as a gender nonconforming person, as a trans person, as a non-binary person that I grew up in this in-between place, that I was neither from Mexico or from the U.S. and also like even till today like I don't consider myself, even though I look very masculine, I don't consider myself a man or a woman. So that shaped a lot of the way that I think about like that it is possible to live in this in betweenness, and people make a home and a whole reality out of it. So I made my life kind of reflect that too.
And that's part of why I wanted to ask the question, and I love how you connect it to so many other things, right? Because I think like, we have the concept of Nepantla,
Yeah,
right?
Nepantla. Yeah.
Which to me is so much more than just about space,
Right.
right? It can be about gender identity, about being neither here nor there in so many different aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And I think your response kind of speaks to that, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like the border region was really formative
Mm-hmm.
in how you approach your creative work too. So I'm wondering, we'll get into more about your art, but I'm wondering how in your creative practice you are informed by the border as both a physical space and a metaphor.
Mm. Um, yeah, I think like I've engaged that question or that thinking in so many different ways in my life. Like, I think growing up there, like I grew up always like really kind of frustrated with like the lack of like mobility and like political like or like engagement or like people like just like the complacency of like this is the way things are done here, and nothing changes. But I feel like now the world has really shifted, and now everybody, like not everybody but people around the country are aware of what happens on the border, and yeah, just like the perils of it. And the like I grew up like always like afraid of the border patrol, um, even though I had a green card. But like we would see them and we would hide, um, and that's like a like now what everybody like kind of faces with like ICE, like patrolling or being around the city. But wait, can we go back? Because I'm like going on
Yeah,
like
no,
other
yeah,
tangents.
yeah, yeah. We can add that.
What was the question again?
Just in terms of like how your experience of growing up on the border
Uh huh.
has shaped your creative practice.
Yeah. 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 I think that I when I was young and like I wanted to really like make my work about the border specifically. Um, well, because one, I can only like I feel make art. I can do whatever I want, but I feel really capable of making art or making yeah, art about my experience. Like that's the only thing I really know about. And so I wanted it to be about the border and about my connection to it, and I really didn't know how to do it. Um, and I think in grad school is when I had like a really good opportunity, and I did this project that like changed everything for me. It was like I titled it 365 Days in an Immigrant Shirt. And I did that with like just like being very naive. I was very young too. I think I did that project when I was 25, 25, 26. And like I wanted to, like I said, people growing up in the border, people are very complacent. Like, nothing changes around here. And I had this like urge or this fire like in me to like want to help immigrants and help my parents and help people that 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 I saw that needed help with all the injustices regarding the border. And I had to figure out like a way to do that, like, and I learned the really hard ways too. Like, well, I don't want to be like a savior to anybody, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. And I think I had to learn like the hard way that, and like thankfully like in grad school, and I made a lot of really bad art before I got to like things that I'm proud of. But yeah, during like that project, I really learned how to connect like the border and like myself. Because I wore this shirt that I found on the U.S.-Mexico border every day for a year as a performance piece. And I was really trying to do it to talk about the border and to talk about migration, to talk about my family. And then the project became, yes, all that, but also me, because I was the body, I was the vessel in it. And that was really complicated. Like, I didn't want to do that. and because my life is complicated and messy, and um, I I had to kind of learn to like merge the two, and I'm glad that I did, because then it really liberated me, and that's when I found out that like my life was art, like that, like everything that I do is art, and so yeah, that was like a long-winded thing to like
No, that's perfect. And it's actually a perfect segue to our next question.
yeah.
Conceptually, what is your art about, and like how does how, if at all, does it have political relevancy for like the content that you're
Yeah.
putting out there?
My work is a lot about like my familial story, just like it's a lot about storytelling. I grew up with like an amazing storyteller, my mom, and I think I think she's actually like a really amazing artist. She just like is a person that had to work really hard her whole life and didn't get like an opportunity to like be creative. But she told me a lot of stories like growing up, and just like stories of like her childhood and like my grandparents and tios or tias. And I always like she just told them really well and like with great detail. And I've in my art practice I've been able to recreate a lot of like her stories and a lot of like so like I'll recreate like my parents' like migration story. Like my mom had to cross the border without documents in the 70s, and she was already married to my dad. And she did the border crossing in red shoes, like red wedges, like high heels. And I was like fascinated with that. I mean, I kind of knew that story, but like not that detail. So I wanted to recreate that performance of like, or my parents' actions in my body. And so I've done like a lot of my work is like, yeah, just kind of recreating or queering, like reimagining like my parents' like history or my even own history, like through like a more queer or trans lens. Because all the stories that I heard from my mom, like I never heard of a queer person ever existing. Um, and so now I'm trying to like kind of recreate those stories with the queer people in it, like and those tales, like my parents' migration story. I casted myself as my mom, and then my friend that's a queer man as my dad, and like we did this kind of like lavender marriage situation, and so we queered up that story, or just like a lot of my most recent work. Well, I would say like as of the last 5 years, I've been working on this like body of work that I called like Siempre Fui Él, and it's because I wanted to dress up as my dad. Like I really was fascinated with like my dad's like images of like passport photos or like these like documents that he had of himself, or even like he had a lot of photo booth photos, and I love like his mustache, and I look a lot like my dad, so I wanted to dress up like him. And strangely enough, like it was because of me dressing up as my dad that the egg started cracking, and I discovered that I was trans. And my dad is like somebody that I don't have a relationship with at all, and and like he has no idea, but he helped me so much to become myself. And so yeah, it was like seeing those like archives of my family and wanting to see a queer person like in them. And so now I put myself as my dad's like body, and a trans body. And and even like my own images, like I go back to like my family photos of my childhood, and see where I really wanted to be me, and like I don't know, it's like a photo of me wearing like a two-piece swimsuit as a 5-year-old kid, and like I really could have just been walking around like with like swimming trunks, but I guess that was the thing that was acceptable for the time, or as like a little girl. So I just recreated that image to be who I wanted to be at that time. Sorry, I don't really have like a concise way. I'm just
No,
like
you think
I have
I
to
think
like tell you the whole story of
I think
like
you captured it really well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think um,
Oh, and then you had another part to the question, no?
Yeah, in terms of like what political relevance does it have, and do you see your art as a form of advocacy?
I mean, yeah, like it has a lot of political relevant, like how do you say that?
Relevance.
Relevance, fuck. Um, Not like it's not overtly like nothing in my work. I mean, like maybe like some of the images that are on the border are very political, but some of the ones that are just like like more personal, like me dressed up as my dad, like somebody could go in a gallery and see that work and wouldn't think it's political at all, but it's super political. It like as like because at the beginning of me doing that work, I was just like a woman like trying to dress up like my dad, and like yeah, like cross dressing and like figuring out gender. And yeah, that's super political. And I think that like the feminists said it, and I don't know which wave of feminism, but like the personal is political. So like everything that you do, even if you don't think it's political, like has like yeah, like some political like like baggage to it. Um, and advocacy, I don't know. I think that it could like I mean, I think I show like liberation in my work, because I have been able to like, I mean, and it's like a daily practice, like liberation, and I've been able to liberate myself, and my work encapsulates that, like like documents it either through photos, through my drawings, through my pottery. Um, I'm like showing the daily practice of liberation. So that's political as fuck.
So you kind of touched on this already, Salva, but I want you to elaborate. You've shared so much about your life story and your parents, and I wonder if you could tell us how these experiences inform how you approach your work as an artist and culture worker, and what led you to this particular work.
Well, I think I mentioned it before. Like, it's the only thing. Like, I'm really stubborn. I think, and it's like the only thing that I'm good at that I know, and then also that I know like the reason I'm here on earth is like to create the work that I do. Like from like a really like kind of like a spiritual sense. Like I feel that I'm like a person that got to like just break a lot of generational traumas, and like yeah, like that's like one of my biggest works of art is like breaking some of those. So yeah, I'm like this is just like I feel like I need to do it. Like there's no other way for me to live my life. Um, Other than to create like the work that I'm doing, and obviously I enjoy it too. But what led me, I'm not sure. I think like it's just like I also like I think a lot of my the people around me are artists. Like I said, like my mom in a way, like not overtly an artist, but like her storytelling is an artist, and that like heavily has like influence like me wanting to like I got to do this in my lifetime, like something that she didn't get to do is to just be creative and to break these bonds. And that's something, yeah, like my even from farther along, like I know that my grandparents, like the person that I chose the name from, my Papa Chava, or his name was Salvador, like he loved to work with clay. um, and yeah, I mean, he had to work a lot and raise, I don't know how many children they had, over like 10 children. And so they didn't have an opportunity to do that. So I feel like I was blessed enough to like be in a generation where I can be an artist. And yeah, I feel like, can we go back to the question? What was it?
Yeah,
I
no, I
lost it.
think you pretty much captured it. Like
Yeah,
you hit all the marks.
yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Wait, well, there was like another part to it, wasn't it?
Well,
Like,
the question was like how your life story informs how you approach your work as an artist
yeah,
and what led you to this work. I
yeah.
don't know if there's anything you want to
Oh
add.
no, yeah,
I think you kind of
yeah,
covered it. So we're halfway there, just a
yeah,
few more. I know that you said that your work isn't necessarily explicitly political, but I also love how you explain that the personal is political and your work is very personal. And I think that it is political or politicized given the climate we live in, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, one of the things I'm asking all the artists is, what do you see as the role of artists in articulating political critique, and why does the work that you make matter to you?
I don't know. I feel like if you're not like if you're wasting your time, if you're not like critiquing like the world around you or like circumstances like as an artist, like yes, like a lot of art is the function of it is to maybe relax or to do something to escape the I don't know the perils of capitalism, but that's super political too. If like so yeah, I feel like if you're just making work that isn't going to be reflective, like, or you're not going to talk about like the world around you, um, at least I'm not interested in it. But yeah, there's an audience and there's for everything, I guess. But like, I don't think it's very interesting art or good art necessarily, or art that I want to like spend my time with. Or also, I feel like as an educator, because that's something I haven't talked about too. That's a big part of like what I do as an artist is also being an educator. Like I would not want to teach my students about artists that aren't being like critical and aren't like being reflective of like the world around them and just kind of being complacent. Um, it's probably what everything they taught us mostly in like art history, and that's not the type of art history that I want to teach or like continue on as yeah, just like as a legacy as a trans artist.
And I appreciate that. I think, like you said, there's room for all type of art, but
Yeah,
it's also like valid to have investment and like an artwork that says something about the world,
yeah,
which is what
yeah,
I think I hear you saying. And I wonder, I'd love to ask a follow up about your role as an educator,
yeah,
right?
for
Because I
sure.
think that's like a hat that you wear that kind of speaks to because you teach art.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if you could say more about your experience as an educator.
It's like a blessing that I got to figure out that I'm good at teaching, and that I have like the skill and the craft to do so. Because I feel that a lot of the ways that I teach are like unlearning the ways that I was taught like art. Like I was taught like only about like cis straight like men mostly, and it took me until like grad school to discover that there was like performance artists like that were queer and that were women and that were women of color and were trans, and yeah, that was like that I have grieved that a lot, and as an educator I feel like a responsibility to like to show young people like artists that like reflect themselves, like they reflect their community, and then also just to like and to teach just all the like the different skills that I know. As I said, like I'm a jack of all trades. Like I know how to do pottery, printmaking, tattooing, drawing, painting, and so I can teach so many different types of art and to like so many different types of people too. Because I've taught like from a 4-year old all the way to like a college student, um, and and yeah, that's also just I feel kind of like one of my responsibilities being here on Earth is to make art and to teach art, and it's not something that I do on the side. Like I make art and I teach, and I feel like they both are like equally important to me. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I want to pivot a little bit because one of the goals of this project is to better understand how to support artists and culture workers.
Yeah.
And I know, you were a recipient of the FBA fellowship.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing how impactful that was for you. And so I'm wondering if you could share with us what support do you in particular need as an artist, and how does this intersect with your gender identity and role as a cultural worker?
Well, like receiving like a grant like that was like completely life changing. It was like the first grant I had ever gotten, like, and it was unrestricted, like that I got to use the funds, Like, and I used most of the funds literally to pay rent. And it was life changing because like for the first time in my life, I was like able to see that I could be an artist and be an educator, like for real, like the way that maybe I had learned about like artists, like had like studios and stuff like that, and that was their career and like the way that they made money. And I guess like I learned a lot about those people, but like I said, like in the art history terms that I learned, like that they were white and cis and had privilege, like I want to learn more about people that came from like working class families. Like my parents, yeah, they came like as migrant workers and worked like picking like just whatever fruit was or vegetables were in season. They worked in factories. Uh, they worked as janitors, as caretakers, as like yeah, all these kind of jobs. And they had 7 kids, and I don't know. It's like it's incredible to think that I like that I could be an artist from like those people were my were the ones that raised me. And we don't have like wealth. We don't have well, we have wealth in other ways, right? Like our ancestral like knowledge and our stories, but we don't have like the luxury of like my parents just like paying my rent um, and them telling me, yeah, just make all the art that you want. Um, so yeah, I think that there should be more like funds or grants like that for trans artists, for artists of color, um, and it was beautiful because like everybody in that grant cohort too is like all like it was super diverse, and yeah, like I feel like that's what we need. Like we need funds, we need money to be able to support artists to be artists and to make the work that they want to make and need to make. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can speak more generally, because part of the goal of this project too is to kind of figure out how to support specifically trans and gender non-conforming artists of color. So I'm wondering, just given your own personal experiences, what do you think are the most pressing needs for BIPOC, trans and gender non-conforming artists who face not only racism and violent anti-trans rhetoric, but really also the undervaluation of creative labor?
Yeah, it's I think like yeah, like I kind of talked about it a little bit in the previous one that right now like whenever I open like up my Instagram, um, I see like 10 to 15 like trans people or trans artists. A lot of them like a lot of the people in my bubble in my circle are artists, and they just lost their job because they're trans, or yeah, just got kicked out of their building, and yeah, because of homophobia, transphobia, and then also the layer of like racism. So yeah, I feel like just literally like a lot of people need to be like housed and fed. Like I know like people talk a lot about like visibility and like how that will like that's like the only thing that people think sometimes that will save us or that I don't know, probably capitalism wants us to like believe that that will somehow save us is to have like representation, like people that look like us in political realms. But like, I don't know, I can't even think that far when I know that like a lot of like my community and people that I know like are struggling for like a next meal, or like struggling to find like where to live. Um, so yeah, I think right now it's just like we really need to pay attention like on the ground, like with like what folks need like day to day. Because if people aren't being like fed, don't have a place to live, don't have a job, like how are they gonna make art? Um, and yeah, I feel like there's so many great like artists, and so much like it just yeah like potential, and like I feel like people need like space too. Like a lot of people that I talk to like want to make art, but like literally don't have like a space to do it, or like they want to do like a community event, and like teach people how to like screen print, but like don't have like a space to do that. And like in a city like LA, like it's so freaking expensive to rent anything, or to have like, yeah, just like the physical space to be able to produce.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Well, we're down to our last question, and this
Yeah.
is the last question that I've asked all the artists. You know, we're really interested in thinking about. You know, we've heard critiques of futurity and liberation, but I want to ask you, what is your vision for a trans future, and what does trans liberation look like for you, if it's even possible?
Yeah. I don't know, you're catching me at like at a particularly dark time. Not only because it's like winter and because it's the end of the first like Trump year. Yeah, so it's like hard for me to like envision like liberation like in like a global way. Just because of the way that the U.S. is and like how hard, much more difficult it is to be a trans person in this country, and I just know a lot of people that like literally fled the country because it's not safe anymore to be here. Um, and so yeah, it's very hard for me to like kind of imagine that in like a global or like a domestic like way. And the only way that I can imagine it is like liberation, like comes from within, and it's like a daily like fight, like to liberate yourself. And that comes in so many ways. Yeah, like you liberate yourself when you're breaking like generational curses. Like I don't know. I was the way that I was born and raised. I was supposed to be a girl, be a woman, um, marry a man, go to church every Sunday, have children, and I'm that's not what I wanted. And that seemed like hell to me. And so I did everything that I needed to do to be the person that I am today. And I fought really, really hard, and I lost like so much. I've lost like just even like the connection to my parents, and a lot of my siblings. But I got to be me in this lifetime, and that's the only way that I can see like liberation is just like in a really personal way. Um, and I heard Celestial talk about that in her interview, that said that like not everybody wants to be liberated. So I don't. Um, I would love for people like to yeah, to be liberated in this lifetime, in their lifetime, and to really be the person that they are, live the life that they want, be true to themselves. But if they don't want that for themselves, like you can't you can't force that. And then also, it's not like I just like I'm at this place right now where I where now, yeah, I'm living the life that I want, right? Like I'm an artist. I I I'm on hormones. I've had top surgery. I get to wear the clothes that I want, and it doesn't mean that like, oh, I'm liberated. For me, it's like a daily practice. Like sometimes, like I think about, oh, like it'll be just so easy to order this thing off Amazon, um, and I'm like, fuck, like I need to like remember like my community and remember capitalism, remember all these things. So it's just like it's like a daily practice of like, I need to yeah, just like know where to invest my time, know where to invest like my money, know like it's not just like one day like I woke up at 36 years old and like now I'm liberated and that's it and now I'm good. It's like I need to like just all the decisions that I make and the life that I want to live moving forward needs to like, I want it to just be a reflection of like my personal revolution and my personal liberation.